184.7 kilometers, including 3,180.13 square miles, 8,236.5 kilometers, of water, making it the 35th largest state by area. It is bordered by Maryland and Washington, D.C. to the northeast, by the Atlantic Ocean to the east, by North Carolina to the south, by Tennessee to the southwest, by Kentucky to the west, and by West Virginia to the northwest. Virginia's boundary with Maryland and Washington, D.C., the low water mark of the south shore of the Potomac River, has been an issue for water rights. Virginia's southern border was defined in 1665 as 36°30 north latitude. Surveyors marking the border with North Carolina in the 18th century however started about 3.5 miles, 5.6 kilometers, to the north and drifted an additional 3.5 miles by the border's westernmost point. After Tennessee joined the U.S. in 1796, new surveyors worked in 1802 and 1803 to reset their border with Virginia as a line from the summit of White Top Mountain to the top of Tri-State Peak in the Cumberland Mountains. However, deviations in that border were identified when it was remarked in 1856, and the Virginia General Assembly proposed a new surveying commission in 1871. Representatives from Tennessee preferred to keep the less straight 1803 line, and in 1893, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled for them against Virginia. One result is how the city of Bristol is divided in two between the states. Geology and terrain. Main article, Geology of Virginia. The Chesapeake Bay separates the contiguous portion of the Commonwealth from the two-county peninsula of Virginia's eastern shore. The bay was formed from the drowned river valley of the ancient Susquehanna River. Many of Virginia's rivers flow into the Chesapeake Bay, including the Potomac, Rappahannock, York, and James, which create three peninsulas in the bay, traditionally referred to as necks named Northern Neck, Middle Peninsula, and the Virginia Peninsula from north to south. Sea level rise has eroded the land on Virginia's islands, which include Tangier Island in the bay and Chincoteague, one of 23 barrier islands on the Atlantic coast. The tidewater is a coastal plain between the Atlantic coast and the fall line. It includes the eastern shore and major estuaries of Chesapeake Bay. The Piedmont is a series of sedimentary and igneous rock-based foothills east of the mountains. The region, known for its heavy clay soil, includes the southwest mountains around Charlottesville. The Blue Ridge Mountains are a physiographic province of the Appalachian Mountains with the highest points in the Commonwealth, the tallest being Mount Rogers at 5,729 feet. 1,746 m. The Ridge and Valley region is west of the mountains, carbonate rock-based, and includes the Massanutten Mountain Ridge and the Great Appalachian Valley, which is called the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, named after the river of the same name that flows through it. The Cumberland Plateau and Cumberland Mountains are in the southwest corner of Virginia, south of the Allegheny Plateau. In this region, rivers flow northwest into the Ohio River Basin. Virginia's seismic zones have not had a history of regular earthquake activity. Earthquakes are rarely above 4.5 in magnitude. The Commonwealth's largest earthquake in at least a century, at a magnitude of 5.8, struck central Virginia on the 23rd of August, 2011. 35 million years ago, a bolide impacted what is now eastern Virginia. The resulting Chesapeake Bay impact crater may explain what earthquakes and subsidence the region does experience. A meteor impact is also theorized as the source of Lake Drummond, the largest of the two natural lakes in the state. The Commonwealth's carbonate rock is filled with more than 4,000 limestone caves, 10 of which are open for tourism, including the popular Ouray Caverns and Skyline Caverns. Virginia's iconic natural bridge is the remaining roof of a collapsed limestone cave. Coal mining takes place in the three mountainous regions. More than 72 million tons of other non-fuel resources, such as slate, kyanite, sand, or gravel, were mined in Virginia in 2020. The largest known deposits of uranium in the U.S. are under Coles Hill, Virginia. Despite a challenge that reached the U.S. Supreme Court twice, the state has banned its mining since 1982 due to environmental and public health concerns. Climate. Main article, Climate of Virginia. See also, Climate change in Virginia. Virginia has a humid subtropical climate that transitions to humid continental west of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Seasonal extremes vary from average lows of 25 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees C, in January to average highs of 86 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 degrees Celsius, in July. The Atlantic Ocean and Gulf Stream have a strong effect on eastern and southeastern coastal areas, making the climate there warmer but also more constant. Most of Virginia's recorded extremes in temperature and precipitation have occurred in the Blue Ridge Mountains and areas west. Virginia receives an average of 43.47 inches, 110 centimeters, of precipitation annually, with the Shenandoah Valley being the state's driest region. Virginia has around 35-45 days with thunderstorms annually, and storms are common in the late afternoon and evenings between April and September. These months are also the most common for tornadoes, 8 of which touched down in the Commonwealth in 2023. Hurricanes and tropical storms can occur from August to October. The deadliest natural disaster in Virginia was Hurricane Camille, which killed over 150 people in 1969, mainly in inland Nelson County. Between December and March, cold air damming caused by the Appalachian Mountains can lead to significant snowfalls across the state, such as the January 2016 blizzard, which created the state's highest recorded one-day snowfall of 36.6 inches, 93 centimeters, near Bluemont. On average, cities in Virginia can receive between 5.8–12.3 inches, 15–31 centimeter, of snow annually, but recent winters have seen below-average snowfalls, and much of Virginia had no measurable snow during the 2022–2023 winter season. Climate change in Virginia is leading to higher temperatures year-round as well as more heavy rain and flooding events. Urban heat islands can be found in many Virginia cities and suburbs, particularly in neighborhoods linked to historic redlining. The air in Virginia has statistically improved since 1998. The closure and conversion of coal power plants in Virginia and the Ohio Valley region has helped cut the amount of particulate matter in Virginia's air in half. Current plans call for 30% of the Commonwealth's electricity to be renewable by 2030 and for all to be carbon-free by 2050. Ecosystem. See also, List of endangered species in Virginia. Forests cover 62% of Virginia as of 2021, of which 80% is considered hardwood forest, meaning that trees are primarily deciduous and broad-leaved. The other 20% is pine, with loblolly and shortleaf pine dominating much of central and eastern Virginia. In the western and mountainous parts of the Commonwealth, oak and hickory are most common, while lower altitudes are more likely to have small but dense stands of hemlocks and mosses in abundance. Spongy moth infestations in oak trees and the blight in chestnut trees have decreased both of their numbers, leaving more room for hickory and the invasive tree of heaven. In the lowland tidewater and Piedmont, yellow pines tend to dominate, with bald cypress wetland forests in the Great Dismal and Nottoway swamps. Other common trees include red spruce, Atlantic white cedar, tulip poplar, and the flowering dogwood, the state tree and flower. Plants like milkweed, dandelions, daisies, ferns, and Virginia creeper, which is featured on the state flag, are also common. The Thompson Wildlife Area in Fauquier is known for having one of the largest populations of trillium wildflowers in North America. White-tailed deer, one of 75 mammal species found in Virginia, rebounded from an estimated population of as few as 25,000 in the 1930s to over 1 million by the 2010s. Native carnivorans include black bears, who have a population of around 5 to 6,000 in the state, as well as bobcats, coyotes, both gray and red foxes, raccoons, weasels and skunks. Rodents include groundhogs, nutria, beavers, both gray squirrels and fox squirrels, chipmunks, and any woodrats, while the 17 bat species include brown bats and the Virginia big-eared bat, the state mammal. The Virginia opossum is the only marsupial native to the United States and Canada, and the native Appalachian cottontail was recognized in 1992 as a distinct species of rabbit, one of 3 found in the state. Whales, dolphins, and porpoises have been recorded in Virginia's coastal waters, with bottlenose dolphins being the most frequent aquatic mammals. Osprey nest at Falls Cape State Park on a wooden platform designed to encourage their return to the area. Virginia's bird fauna comprises 422 counted species, of which 359 are regularly occurring and 214 have bred in Virginia, while the rest are mostly winter residents or transients. Water birds include sandpipers, wood ducks, and Virginia rail, while common inland examples include warblers, woodpeckers, and cardinals, the state bird. Birds of prey include osprey, broad-winged hawks, and barred owls. There are no endemic bird species. Audubon recognizes 21 important bird areas in the state. Peregrine falcons, whose numbers dramatically declined due to DDT poisoning in the middle of the 20th century, are the focus of conservation efforts in the state and a reintroduction program in Shenandoah National Park. Virginia has 226 species of freshwater fish from 25 families, a diversity attributable to the area's varied and humid climate, topography, interconnected river system, and lack of Pleistocene glaciers. Common examples on the Cumberland Plateau and higher elevation regions include eastern black-nosed dace, sculpin, smallmouth bass, red horsesucker, canorata, and brook trout, the state fish. Downhill in the Piedmont, striped-back darter and roanoke bass become common, as do swampfish, blue-spotted sunfish, and pirate perch in the tidewater. The Chesapeake Bay hosts clams, oysters, and 350 species of saltwater and estuarine fish, including the bay's most abundant finfish, the bay anchovy, as well as the invasive blue catfish. An estimated 317 million Chesapeake blue crabs live in the bay as of 2024. There are 34 native species of crayfish, like the Big Sandy. Amphibians found in Virginia include the Cumberland Plateau salamander and eastern hellbender, while the northern water snake is the most common of the 32 snake species. Protected lands. See also, List of Virginia state parks. As of 2019, roughly 16.2% of land in the Commonwealth is protected by federal, state, and local governments and non-profits. Federal lands account for the majority, with 30 National Park Service units, such as Great Falls Park and the Appalachian Trail, and one national park, Shenandoah. Almost 40% of Shenandoah's total 199,173 acres, 806 kilometers, area has been designated as wilderness under the National Wilderness Preservation System. The U.S. Forest Service administers the George Washington and Jefferson National Forests, which cover more than 1.6 million acres, 6,500 kilometers, within Virginia's mountains, and continue into West Virginia and Kentucky. The Great Dismal Swamp National Wildlife Refuge also extends into North Carolina, as does the Back Bay National Wildlife Refuge, which marks the beginning of the Outer Banks. State agencies control about 1/3 of protected land in the state, and the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation manages over 75,900 acres, 307.2 kilometers, in 40 Virginia state parks and 59,222 acres, 239.7 kilometers, in 65 natural area preserves, plus 3 undeveloped parks. Breaks Interstate Park crosses the Kentucky border and is one of only 2 interstate parks in the United States. Sustainable logging is allowed in 26 state forests managed by the Virginia Department of Forestry, totaling 71,972 acres, 291.3 kilometers, as is hunting in 44 wildlife management areas run by the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources, covering over 205,000 acres, 829.6 kilometers. The Chesapeake Bay is not a national park, but is protected by both state and federal legislation and the Interstate Chesapeake Bay Program. Cities and towns. See also, political subdivisions of Virginia and Virginia statistical areas. Virginia is divided into 95 counties and 38 independent cities, which the U.S. Census Bureau describes as county equivalents. This general method of treating cities and counties on par with each other is unique to Virginia and stretches back to the influence of Williamsburg and Norfolk in the colonial period. Only 3 other independent cities exist elsewhere in the U.S. The differences between counties and cities in Virginia are small and have to do with how each assess new taxes, whether a referendum is necessary to issue bonds, and with the application of Dillon's Rule, which limits the authority of cities and counties to countermand acts expressly allowed by the General Assembly. Counties can also have incorporated towns, and while there are no further administrative subdivisions, the Census Bureau recognizes several hundred unincorporated communities. Over 3 million people, 35% of Virginians, live in the 20 jurisdictions collectively defined as Northern Virginia, part of the larger Washington metropolitan area and the Northeast megalopolis. Fairfax County, with more than 1.1 million residents, is Virginia's most populous jurisdiction, and has a major urban business and shopping center in Tysons, Virginia's largest office market. Neighboring Prince William County, with over 450,000 residents, is Virginia's second most populous county and home to Marine Corps Base Quantico, the FBI Academy, and Manassas National Battlefield Park. Arlington County is the smallest self-governing county in the U.S. by land area, and local politicians have proposed reorganizing it as an independent city due to its high density. Loudoun County is the fastest-growing county in the state. In western Virginia, Roanoke City and Montgomery County, part of the Blacksburg-Christiansburg metropolitan area, both have surpassed a population of 100,000 since 2018. On the western edge of the Tidewater region is Virginia's capital, Richmond, which has a population of around 230,000 in its city proper and over 1.3 million in its metropolitan area. On the eastern edge is the Hampton Roads metropolitan area, where over 1.7 million reside across 6 counties and 9 cities, including the Commonwealth's 3 most populous independent cities, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, and Norfolk. Neighboring Suffolk, which includes a portion of the Great Dismal Swamp, is the largest city by area at 429.1 square miles, 1,111 kilometers. One reason for the concentration of independent cities in the Tidewater region is that several rural counties there reincorporated as cities or consolidated with existing cities to try to hold on to their new suburban neighborhoods that started booming in the 1950s, since cities like Norfolk and Portsmouth were able to annex land from adjoining counties until a moratorium in 1987. Others, like Pocosan, became cities to try to preserve racial segregation during the desegregation era of the 1970s. Largest metropolitan and micropolitan statistical areas in Virginia. U.S. Census Bureau MSA population estimates 2023. Rank name Pop. Rank name Pop. Northern Virginia. Hampton Roads 1 Northern Virginia 3,154,735 11 Danville 101,408 Richmond. Roanoke 2 Hampton Roads 1,727,503 12 Bristol 92,290 3 Richmond 1,349,732 13 Martinsville 63,465 4 Roanoke 314,314 14 Tazewell 39,120 5 Lynchburg 264,590 15 Lake of the Woods 38,574 6 Charlottesville 225,127 7 Blacksburg Christiansburg 181,428 8 Harrisonburg 137,650 9 Staunton Waynesboro 127,344 10 Winchester 123,611 Demographics. Main article, Demographics of Virginia. The 2020 census found the state resident population was 8,631,393, a 7.9% increase since the 2010 census. Another 23,149 Virginians live overseas, giving the state a total population of 8,654,542. Virginia has the fourth largest overseas population of U.S. states due to its federal employees and military personnel. The fertility rate in Virginia as of 2020 was 55.8 per 1,000 females between the ages of 15 and 44, and the median age as of 2021 was the same as the national average of 38.8 years old. The geographic center of population is located northwest of Richmond in Hanover County, as of 2020. Though still growing naturally as births outnumber deaths, Virginia has had a negative net migration rate since 2013, with 8,995 more people leaving the state than moving to it in 2021. This is largely credited to high home prices in Northern Virginia, which are driving residents there to relocate south. Raleigh is their top destination. Aside from Virginia, the top birth state for Virginians is New York, with the Northeast accounting for the largest number of domestic migrants into the state by region. About 12% of residents were born outside the United States as of 2020. El Salvador is the most common foreign country of birth, with India, Mexico, South Korea, the Philippines, and Vietnam as other common birthplaces. Race and ethnicity. The state's most populous racial group, non-Hispanic whites, has declined as a proportion of the population from 76% in 1990 to 58.6% in 2020. Immigrants from Britain and Ireland settled throughout the Commonwealth during the colonial period, when roughly 3/4 of immigrants came as indentured servants. The Appalachian Mountains and Shenandoah Valley have many settlements that were populated by German and Scotch-Irish immigrants in the 18th and 19th centuries, often following the Great Wagon Road. Over 10% of Virginians have German ancestry as of 2020. New citizens attend a naturalization ceremony in Northern Virginia, where 25% of residents are foreign-born, almost twice the overall state average. The largest minority group in Virginia are blacks and African Americans, about 1/5 of the population. Virginia was a major destination of the Atlantic slave trade. The Igbo ethnic group of what is now southern Nigeria were the largest African group among slaves in Virginia. Blacks in Virginia also have more European ancestry than those in other southern states, and DNA analysis shows many have asymmetrical male and female ancestry from before the Civil War, evidence of European fathers and African or Native American mothers. Though the black population was reduced by the Great Migration to northern industrial cities in the first half of the 20th century, since 1965 there has been a reverse migration of blacks returning south. The Commonwealth has the highest number of black-white interracial marriages in the U.S., and 8.2% of Virginians describe themselves as multiracial. More recent immigration since the late 20th century has resulted in new communities of Hispanics and Asians. As of 2020, 10.5% of Virginia's total population describe themselves as Hispanic or Latino, and 8.8% as Asian. The state's Hispanic population rose by 92% from 2000 to 2010. With 2/3 of Hispanics in the state living in Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia also has a significant population of Vietnamese Americans, whose major wave of immigration followed the Vietnam War. Korean Americans have migrated there more recently, while about 45,000 Filipino Americans have settled in the Hampton Roads area. Tribal membership in Virginia is complicated by the legacy of the state's Pencil genocide of intentionally categorizing Native Americans and blacks together, and many tribal members do have African or European ancestry, or both. In 2020, the U.S. Census Bureau found that only 0.5% of Virginians were exclusively American Indian or Alaska Native, though 2.1% were in some combination with other ethnicities. The state government has extended recognition to 11 tribes. 7 tribes also have federal recognition. The Pamunkey and Mattapony have reservations on tributaries of the York River in the Tidewater region. Largest race by county or city. Race and ethnicity, 2020, alone total. Legend. Non-Hispanic white 58.6%, 62.8%. Black or African American 18.3%, 20.1%. Hispanic or Latino, of any race, 10.5%. Asian 7.1%, 8.6%. American Indian and Alaska Native 0.2%, 1.5%. Other 0.6%, 1.5%. Largest ancestry by county or city. Ancestry, 2020 estimated. Total. American Community Survey 5-year estimate. Irish or Scotch-Irish, 10.4%. German, 10.3%. English, 9.8%. American, 9.4%. Sub-Saharan African, 2.3%. Languages. According to U.S. Census data as of 2022 on Virginia residents aged 5 and older, 83%, 6,805,548, speak English at home as a first language. Spanish is the next most commonly spoken language, with 7.5%, 611,831, of Virginia households. Though age is a factor, 8.7%, 112,000